And this right here leads me into my biggest shocks of the week. What did we watch this week that nobody expected? There were two. But I'm going to start out with an honorable mention. Jonathan Taylor. Wow. This guy is good. Jonathan Taylor, over 330 yards from scrimmage and 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games. One of which being against the Denver Broncos. And it's proved to us that when you give Jonathan Taylor a good and competent roster and team, he can perform. This is what he does. Jonathan Taylor, he is that type of player. He can get it done by himself. Obviously, he's got a great team around him. So the offensive line helps. The passing threat helps. Daniel Jones helps. Crazy to say, but Daniel Jones helps. Jonathan Taylor, he's got that it factor, and he has proved that. But moving on from the honorable mention, Jonathan Taylor, into my first shock of the week, the Carolina Panthers. Wow. I did not see that one coming. They faced off against the Atlanta Falcons, a team who in week 1 barely lost because Baker Money Mayfield decided he was going to drive and score to win the game with less than a minute left. In week 2, they played the Minnesota Vikings, who made the Bears look sorry in week 1, and they destroyed the Minnesota Vikings. And the Carolina Panthers hosted the Atlanta Falcons and made them look sorry. The Atlanta Falcons. Yuck. What a disgusting performance. Michael Penix Jr. did not look good. He actually looked so bad that Kirk Cousins came into the end of the game. They benched Michael Penix because that's how bad he looked. Carolina offensively didn't play that well either. Bryce Young didn't look great. But one thing that he was mistake-free. He had no turnovers. And the Carolina Panthers were able to force turnovers and score off of them. They had a pick 6. The Carolina Panthers defense was what really shocked me in this game. And I did not expect that, especially after watching Michael Penix, knowing that they have Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, who's, yes, been good this year, and Drake London. I did not expect Carolina to walk in and 30-0 shut out the Atlanta Falcons. But that's exactly what they did. Carolina Panthers looked good. The Atlanta Falcons looked yuck. And I want to see how this momentum goes for Carolina. Can they pick up some wins? Can they pick up some steam? And for the Falcons, can they turn this ship around? Because right now, that's not what you want to see. You do not want to get shut out 30-0 against the Carolina Panthers. That is not a good look. But the biggest shock of the week. Last week, my biggest shock of the week was saying that the Green Bay Packers were the best team in the NFL. And what happens right after I say that? They lose to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland! Shout out LeBron. But Cleveland, oh my goodness. I can safely say that I don't think anybody saw that one coming. This was an absolute heat check for Green Bay. And for the Cleveland Browns, they prove their defense is genuinely elite. Their offense has struggled so far this season, but they've also played now the Packers, the Ravens, and the Bengals in week 1 who had a good defense. The Cleveland Browns, we're going to look back on their draft class and say that was phenomenal because Mason Graham had a great game. Carson Schweissinger had a great game. Forgive me if I mispronounced that. Kinshawn Judkins had a phenomenal game. He proved that he is the one taking over this backfield, even though later in the draft they drafted Dylan Sampson, who had good games earlier in the season. But Kinshawn Judkins has looked phenomenal. Despite playing against the Green Bay Packers, he carried this offense. Harold Fannin Jr., despite having David Njoku there, has looked great. Then you have Dylan Gabriel and Shadur Sanders, who they haven't played yet, so we can't really say for certain, but it doesn't even matter. The Cleveland Browns, their defense is good. Not just good. They are elite. Their defense is elite. But the real shocker was the other side. The Green Bay Packers. This was a team that after last week, everyone was saying Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. NFC Championship, first seed in the NFC, yada, yada, yada. But they walked into Cleveland, their first road game of the season, and they didn't get it. They did not get it done. They almost did. It was 10-10 with 26 seconds left. The Green Bay Packers went to go kick a field goal, and what happens? The Cleveland Browns block it. They get it. They get themselves in field goal range, and they make their field goal, taking the lead and the win 13-10 as time expired. That was the name of the game for the Cleveland Browns and the Green Bay Packers. This was a defensive clash. It was a masterclass defensively from these two teams. something I did not expect to see happen. But that is why the Cleveland Browns are my shock of the week.